You've heard of Mark Twain, right? Of course you have. But what if I told you that one of America's most famous writers might have been the key to an ancient 3,000-year-old biblical prophecy, completely by accident? It's a wild story that connects him to the Holy Land, and it all starts in a place that looked absolutely nothing like you'd expect. So yeah, I know what you're thinking. How on earth could the guy who wrote Huckleberry Finn have anything to do with a prophecy from the book of Deuteronomy? I mean, it sounds like a stretch, right? But as you're about to see, the pieces of this puzzle fit together in a way that is, well, pretty mind-blowing. All right, so our story doesn't actually begin in ancient times. It starts in the 1800s with a journey made by a very famous American, a stranger, you could say, who found himself in a very, very desolate land. So picture this. It's 1867. The writer we know as Mark Twain heads over to the Holy Land. Now, he wasn't there on some spiritual quest. Nope. He was a sharp, witty journalist, a tourist, just writing down exactly what he saw for what would become his massive bestseller, The Innocents Abroad. And what he saw there just stunned him. He wasn't finding a land of milk and honey. Not even close. His description is just bleak. He called it a silent, mournful expanse. He talks about seeing almost no people, no trees, nothing. He was basically painting a picture of a land that was completely and utterly empty. And this part is absolutely crucial. He wasn't exaggerating for effect. This wasn't the humorous Mark Twain talking. This was a journalist giving a stark eyewitness account. He was just documenting the facts on the ground. And that very specific observation, well, that's the first key to this whole mystery.
Okay, so let's put a pin in the 19th century for a moment. We're going to jump in the time machine and go way back, thousands of years, to an ancient prophecy that seems to describe the exact scene Twain just laid out for us.
So in the book of Deuteronomy, there's this prophecy. It basically says that if the people of Israel were disobedient, their land would fall under a curse. It would become totally desolate, barren, just like Twain described. It was a pretty serious warning. But here's where it gets really interesting. The prophecy didn't just end with doom and gloom. It came with a kind of escape clause, a very, very specific condition that had to be met before the land could ever be healed. And here it is. The curse would stay in place until a foreigner, a stranger from a far land, came, saw the devastation for himself, and actually talked about it, wrote about it. Think about that for a second. The prophecy literally required an outside observer to witness the land's sorry state. And only after that stranger gave his testimony, the prophecy says, only then would God have mercy, bring his people back, and restore the land. So the stranger's testimony was the trigger, the catalyst for mercy. Let's get back to our main mystery. We've got a prophecy that needs a witness. It's finally time to connect all the dots. So let's recap the most important part of that prophecy from Deuteronomy. It absolutely required a witness. Not just anyone, a stranger from a far land who would see the desolation and report back to the world. Well, the witness who fits that description perfectly is Mark Twain. But as you probably know, Mark Twain was his pen name. His real given name was Samuel Clemens. And this is where the story just gets extraordinary. Let's just look at the meaning behind his real name. Samuel is a classic Hebrew name. It means God has heard. And Clemens comes from Latin. It means merciful. So you put those two together, and the birth name of our stranger from a far land, Samuel Clemens, literally translates to God has heard and will be merciful. I mean, just look at that side by side. It's unbelievable. The ancient prophecy promised that after the stranger gave his testimony, God would hear and have mercy. The stranger who shows up and gives that exact testimony is named Samuel Clemens, a name that means God has heard and will be merciful. The witness's name is a perfect literal echo of the prophecy's promise. So that leaves us with one big question, doesn't it? Is all of this, the man, the place, the prophecy, the name, is it just one of the most remarkable coincidences in all of history? Or could it be a glimpse of something else? A moment of intricate prophetic design unfolding right before our eyes? That's something for you to decide.